All right. Hello, everybody. Let me know how the audio is. It seems to be working, but it seems to be a little bit loud. So if it is, let me know, and I can try turning that down. So thank you for joining me again on a Friday game design talk. I had a little bit more fun with this one. Not saying I don't have fun with the other ones, but it was good to kind of put this presentation together, practice it a little bit, and I'm excited for this topic. So before we jump into it, just a reminder, at the end of the stream, we'll be opening up 2 packs live on stream and then giving those away. We'll have a question this time, so it'll be the first person who answers the question. Okay. So it'll be the first person who answers the question correctly across YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. I have all the chats coming in at the same time. So you can... Let me just see if I can pull that over. Yeah. All right, perfect. So I have the chats going and I can see them. And then we'll go from there. Whoever has the first person to answer the question will win the prizes. All right, so we were talking about minimal viable product versus minimal testable product. I'll get into those a little bit more before we jump into the topic. I also want to talk about what is the mission statement. Why am I doing these presentations every Friday? The first thing I want to talk about is just the ability to practice presentations. This is something I know I'm particularly weak in, but it's something I want to get better at. So this is my opportunity every Friday to be in front of a camera, put together a slide deck, practice it a little bit, and be comfortable speaking and enunciating and creating the right pace for the presentation. It's something that I'm very uncomfortable with, but I think it's necessary for my own personal growth, for the growth of the company, for the growth of everyone who works on this project. So presentations, I think, are very, very important. The second is a commitment to connecting with the community. I don't want to ever be fully disconnected from the community. So I'm hoping that whatever happens, however the company grows, I will be able to connect with the company at least once a week on some sort of platform, some sort of way. I think it's important for you to know who I am and for me to know who the community is and how you're reacting to the game. And then the last and the most important is that we're putting out content for TCG, CCG designers. There's a lot of content out there for board game design, for video game design, everything else, but I found in the TCG space it's a little bit more lacking. And if there is, there aren't a lot of diversified voices in this space either. So I think there's not enough design content, and I just want to share my learnings of designing a TCG with the community. Okay, so next I want to give a huge thank you and shout out to our Patreon supporters. So thank you to Andrew, Gunther, Hills, Steven, Steve-O, and Will for being our top tier supporters. We've got a lot of new Patreon members joining this month, so thank you to everyone who supports us on Patreon, who's excited about getting those promos, especially that upcoming Underworld Knowledge promo. It looks absolutely amazing. Soon you'll be contributing more into the process of the design space once we get Origins kind of rolling, so be excited about that. And then my last kind of announcement before we jump into this talk is a huge shout out to our future leaguers. Thank you for all your testings. Thank you for all your support and all the debates that go on in that channel. It's been really, really great. I'm still working on getting the next few Patreon Future League promos together. Things have been kind of busy on our end, but just note every Friday we have Future League testing happening on Tabletop Simulator at 7 p.m. You can join the Discord to be part of that conversation and just help grow the game in a very healthy way. Our next Future League tournament is happening on the 20th. And then the next roundtable is happening on April 5th, where we'll be talking about all of our learnings from the past month and joining that conversation. So let's jump into this. I did something a little bit different for this presentation. I'm going to ask some questions, so I'm super curious from everyone who's coming into this chat. How many people have you heard of what a minimum viable product is? Do you understand what that is? I'm just curious before we jump into this, what everyone's kind of background behind this. So If you know, or if you've heard of it, just, let me know in the chat. Alright, so let's jump into this. What is the minimal viable product? I got this definition off online. A minimal viable product, or MVP, is a product with enough features to attract early adopter customers and validate a product idea early in the product development cycle. So there's a lot in that definition. I kind of want to break it down. So it's a product with enough features to attract early adopters. Now, we talk a lot about early adopters. Who are they? The biggest thing about an early adopter is it's someone who looks at the product and is interested in it despite knowing that the product is going to be very buggy and a lot of issues. For us, our early adopters were the people who came in at SkyCon, our first partner stores, Forbes and Heads or Tails, and all the people who bought the product early on before we even had booster packs, before the product was fully considered done and it was more or less just a board game. These are the people who are looking at it and saying, there's potential in this. There's a future in this game that I want to be part of. And that's a really cool mindset to have. And everyone is an early adopter to something. People as a whole aren't just early adopters to everything. Some people are early adopters in maybe games, maybe cell phones or apps or different avenues. So early adopters are very important for you to know who are your target demographics, a way to validate what you're doing. So you have this idea, you're building a tactical collectible card game, and you don't know if it's going to hit the market, if it's going to be reasonable, or even if it will sell. And this is where your MVP comes in. It gives you an opportunity to jump early into that cycle and test if you can sell the product, if people would enjoy the product, all those different things that you're curious about. It allows you to test that early stages and see where you can improve, where you can grow. So we had a lot of people who jumped on early in those days and bought a copy and were asking, when are more cards coming out? When are more champions coming out? Well, they started announcing the things that they're really, really passionate about. So one of the things they're very passionate about was the neoprene mats. And once we got those, that was a huge win for us because that was something that they thought was essential for the growth of the game. But what is the minimum testable product? This, at first, I actually thought this was the term I coined, and I was online and found out that a lot of people had talked about this in different ways. There's things like minimum testable unit, minimum testable feature. The idea is, what is your bare minimum that's required to start testing this product? So internal testing and external testing are completely different. The MVP can be used to test things externally. The minimum testable product is what you use to test things internally. See, within the company, it does this function the way you want it to. So that is the minimum testable product. Moving on, I've wanted to ask, so if you're thinking about Genesis and you're thinking about like how you would test it, how would you grow it, I'm curious, what do you think are the essential elements? What are some of the key features that are required for testing a game like Genesis? And this is something we had to think a lot about. We had to think if we were trying to understand, does this game work the way we want it to? What are all the different elements we had to get together and, work and massage to make sure that it works as a core? So for us, those features were the champion, summons, spells, techniques, and the board. Champions, because that was the essence of the game. The champion and the board are two elements that are very unique to the game. We had to have them in all phases of testing. Summons, because they had a different function than all other cards. It's something that a lot of people really enjoy when they're playing other card games. So we had to see how they worked within the scope of Genesis. And then spells and techniques, we had to understand what the difference was. Why are we putting in these two elements? And the big thing is, how did the two resources balance with each other, energy and aura? Did they make sense together? Were there things that just didn't relate with one another? So we had to make sure that every step of the way, these were the minimum cards that we put in when it came to testing. So what cards did we have? Well, our champion was usually a big brute, something very similar to Malik. The summon we would have one small summon like Hunting Hound. If we had time, we would make a medium-sized summon, something more like Blackstone Golem. Our spell was usually something like Flame or some sort of like just immediate damage card. And then the technique was usually Left Hook or just like an initial punch card. And the board, we tried a bunch of different board ideas of, we had 5x5s, we had 2x5s, all those kind of things kind of came together. And then we ended up with the 5x6 because that had the most organic feel and it felt the best for gameplay. Hey Jason, for joining us from North of Exile. How's it going? Congratulations on getting affiliated, and congratulations on the great show you had last night. 20 people watching, that's absolutely amazing. We're still struggling to get our numbers a little bit higher, but if anyone who's watching, if you're not following North of Exile on Twitch, I go and recommend that. Every Thursday they do a show which is super cool, and they give away prizes, and some of their prizes are Genesis related, so thank you for the support on your end, and congrats on everything you're doing. It's absolutely amazing. So that's what we had as a minimal testable product for Genesis. Imagine Malik, Hunting Hound, Flame, and a Left Hook on a board, and those were the only cards you had. It really did create an interesting testing environment because it taught us, at the bare minimum, does the game work the way we want it to work? So something that you hear a lot, and it's very true, but it really comes with experience. Testing is key to everything you do. When it comes down to testing, you need to break it down into 3 areas. What are you trying to learn from your testing? Are you open to learn things that you didn't expect to learn? And how are you recording the data? How are you making sure that your learnings are helping drive future decisions and you're not making the same mistakes over and over again? So when we started testing Genesis, what did we want to know when we came into it? What were some of our expectations? Well, we wanted to know, would players grasp the resource system fairly well? How easily could they pick up the rules and teach it to the next person? And did they enjoy the game? And we had different ways of measuring this thing. So how did they grasp the resource system? Well, the question was, it really came, how many times did they question those things? How many things would they need to challenge or reevaluate, or in one way or another show a lack of understanding of it? And then how easily could they pick up the rules? It wasn't just did they understand the rules and play it, but could they then teach it to the next person? So we would have to teach things in waves and cohorts and be like, all right, we're going to teach 1 or 2 people how to play, then have them teach the next people, and have them teach the next people, and see, could they not just learn the game, but share that information, because that shows that the game's easy to carry forward. And we know for collectible card games, a lot of people, yes, you will learn from the rule books or from YouTube videos, but a lot of people learn from their friends. They learn from the store owners or some sort of representative, some sort of person hosting the event. Those are the people who tend to teach the rules. So we want to make sure that the rules aren't just easy to learn, but they are also easy to teach. And did they enjoy the game? Well, one thing we looked at was, did they play a second game? When they learned how to play, did they just sit there and be like, okay, that was great, I'm going to go and do something else? Or did they stay and play a second game and a third game and a fourth game? And these were the things that we found over and over again, that these were true, or there were challenges in different things. So in early versions of the game, our system, we did it by pen and paper, and we did addition and subtraction, and it was too hard for players to comprehend. So then we switched it over to just pure subtraction. You started off with all your resources and you just lost them over turns, and that was a lot easier for players to grasp. Alright, then were we open to learning new things that we did not expect? Well, people wanted, one thing we found was people always assume that summons could cast abilities from their hands. And this is something that we're still trying to figure out how to introduce to players. But one thing that we found very explicit was having the beckoning mechanic and the way we word the beckoning mechanic. So making it that the beckoning mechanic shows that this is coming from the champion, but that the abilities come from the summon. So the attack ability comes from the summon. And that really changed players' perspective. It was something very minor, but from watching the players play, that was something that we learned. And then players also seem to very much want to interact with the space more. They're like, we love the board, we love moving around, but we have an issue where, I'm on the board and I want to be able to push someone away or toss someone away. And they were the ones who inspired mechanics like Gust, like Rampage Toss. It was the people in those early testing phases who helped us define these things. And then one thing that was actually really interesting was one of the people who came and tested. He was like, I like your I like the game, I like the design concepts and everything, but it would be cool if you had some sort of system that pointed cards and then your deck could only hit a certain amount of total points. And he was basically talking about the cheese system, which is something we had in the game, but we removed it because we thought it was too complex, and then found that a lot of players were asking for something similar to that. We're like, okay, that's awesome. Let's put that back in. Let's get that back there for testing. So that's how we ended up with all these learnings, with our testing phases. And then we ended up recording this information through player surveys, sending out forums afterwards. We would take notes, so we had pen and paper. We took down a lot of notes. We had a debrief session after we were done all of our testing and talked about, okay, these were the things I learned, these were the things I liked, didn't like, these were the things that some of the players were asking for. Is this something we can implement? So these were all the things we kind of put together. So testing was very, very key, and that's where a minimal testable product is essential, because that's when you can start getting this information before you start investing a lot into artwork, into design, into getting a print run that's large enough. Before you start investing a lot of real money into it, having a minimal testable product is going to help you get the answers you need to see, is this worth selling. Alright, so let's switch over to the MVP, the minimal viable product. What was Genesis' minimal viable product? It was actually the Alpha Starter Kit. So I'm curious, for everyone who's watching, who owns an Alpha Starter Kit out there? And who owns a first edition Alpha Starter Kit? And if you're wondering if you own the first edition or not, if you have yours nearby, check underneath the lid, and there should be a dedication actually to my mom underneath the lid of the Alpha Starter Kit. But the Alpha Starter Kit was our MVP. It was actually a very interesting product because we hit the market with a tactical collectible card game, but we didn't have booster packs. We just had a starter kit that had 4 of the 8 champions, a bunch of horror cards, and a bunch of playable timeline cards, but it didn't have everything. And it really came to question, did we actually need to have all 8 champions at the beginning of the game? Well, no, we didn't. We just needed enough variety that players could define for themselves how they wanted to play. What was a unique perspective? I always like coming back to Street Fighter when I think about this, because the early days of Street Fighter, you only could play with Ryu and Ken. There were no other players to play with. Now you have 50, 60, maybe even 100 different characters in a Street Fighter game, and it's really ridiculous, and every character is pretty unique. I wouldn't say every character is absolutely unique. There are definitely overlaps between characters, but the characters are fairly unique. But in the early days, their MVP, it only required 2 characters, and with Genesis, our MVP only required 4 characters. You can actually see them at the bottom there. You have Nubia and Raha on one side, and then Idris and Malik. See, this Idris doesn't even have the heavy attack there. And then, did we even need booster packs for Genesis? And it was something that a lot of people would assume, yes, if you're releasing a collectible card game, you absolutely need to have booster packs because that's how you define yourself as a collectible card game. But no, it wasn't something we needed. It turned out we didn't need any of these things. We just needed 4 champions and enough cards for people to play with to see if they were interested, to see if this was a market space that was even worth pursuing. And that's the key of the MVP. Over a minimal testable product, the key there is to see if the product functions the way you want it to function. The minimal viable product, the goal is to see if the market is ready for this. Is this something that you can actually sell? Because sales is very, very important in any business. So we wanted to see, could we sell the Alpha Starter Kit? Would people be interested in this? Is the concept unique enough that players wanted to jump into it? And was the board and playing on a board cumbersome that players did not want to jump into it? And we validated a lot of those things when we found that, yeah, people were interested in the game, and the board was not a huge hindrance. And the most important part was that we could sell it. We were able to sell quite a few of the Alpha Starter Kits, enough for me to want to jump into this full-time and do this bigger project. So I'm really grateful that we did Alpha the way we did, because it gave me a lot of confidence every step of the way. And as Alpha grew, we introduced more cards, we got them tested, we released them in booster packs, and we did them in small waves. And the fact that we always constantly sold out of Alpha booster packs told me that this was something that the people who were into this game were really, really into. So do you need an MVP? At the end of the day, sales matters. You can have a million ideas of how you want to grow your product, grow your company, but sales is key. Sales tells you that there is that not only do you have a good idea, but that people are willing to exchange their financial stability or whatever their financial means is to acquire that game, acquire that product. But it is also important to know that your company, is more important than your product. It's a bigger scope than just your product. So I have here, when I think about it, I always came into this thinking I want to create a company that's very, very successful, and it just happens to sell a really great game, compared to I have a really great game and I just want to see if players will buy it, right? The idea of making a very sustainable company has always driven good decision-making processes along the way. So where we're at today, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we followed the principles of having an MVP, having a minimal testable product, and iterating on them all the time. Growth and iteration is key to a lot of those decision-making processes, and the MVP allows you to figure those things out. There were a lot of things about designing a starter kit that I didn't think about or didn't even know until we got into creating the Alpha Starter Kit and started selling it. The first edition Alpha Starter Kits didn't have suggested deck lists or anything like that. They're very rushed and very rough. And then the second edition, we put in a little insert saying, oh, this is how you build your first deck. These are the decks we recommend you playing with and trying the game out. And that was a huge step forward. And also having the flowchart of how the game works. And that flowchart has carried with us all throughout. Every single product has that flowchart in it somewhere, because it's been very essential for players' experience. And we learned that from having our MVP, having our minimal testable product, having all those little waves of growth. All right, we have our Q&A. If you have any questions about what I talked about here, if you want me to dig into it anymore, let me know. As I'm waiting for some questions to come in, I want to play the Origins trailer, because I don't think we have been talking up Origins enough, and it's been really exciting. So let me Alright, so are you excited for Origins? It's going to be a really cool set. I'm really hyped for how the game's kind of growing, the direction it's taking. I know that the Future League team and Alex Miller leading all that has done a great job directing it, so I'm really hyped about Origins, and I look forward to when it launches, hopefully later this year. The goal is this year at some point, so pay attention to a lot of cool news coming out, hopefully next week. Alright, doesn't seem like there's any Q&A stuff coming in. Hopefully, it seems like I'm getting messages in. I don't see anything that's kind of slowing that down. Alright. Upcoming events. Remember that every week on Mondays we got Meta Mondays, where a small group of players have come together to try to test out a lot of the decks to see which decks rank better and what are the elements that make them work really well. So if that's something you're interested in, join our Discord, join the conversation. Links to the Discord are in the description of the video. Exploring the libraries, that's happening every Tuesday nights, where I sit down with Alex Miller and we talk about the actual intricacies of the game itself. So in these talks we're talking about game design, in those talks we're talking about the game itself. Again, every Friday at 3 p.m. I'm going to be doing these game design talks. If there's topics you want me to cover, I think I'm going to change my next week's topic, but I'll get to that in a little bit. And then Future League testing happening Friday evenings. And then upcoming tournament or events that are one-offs. Future League tournament happening tomorrow at 2 p.m. If you want to sign up for it, make sure you go to tabletop.to and sign up for it there. The 9th chapter of the Akasha Codex is happening on the 22nd. I'm really excited about this one. It's going to be cool. I hope you enjoyed the last one. If you've read it, give me your feedback. I'd love to hear what you think about it. I really liked the last one. I've loved all the chapters so far. That one was definitely something that was special to me. And then the town hall happening on April 5th at 6 p.m. That one, again, is just one of those conversation pieces of getting to understand your perspective on the game a little bit more. Coming in, is there something you feel like you've missed in your first MVP, or that was a bit extra that you didn't need? Was there something that I missed? I don't know if there was something that I missed. The MVP product was pretty good. It covered a lot of the things that I was looking for it to cover. It was a lot about, this was the absolute bare minimum that the game needed for players to jump into it. And it did what it was supposed to do. It gave us a lot of the learnings. Was there something a bit extra that you didn't need? I think there were a lot of cards in there that we didn't need to have at the early phases. We could have scaled it back. We could have made them very, very simple decks like Malik versus Raha type of thing. Instead of making them intricate, like you could have all 4 champions and switch them out, or having those extra cards show up as an tack on or add-on expansion type of thing, compared to putting those into the starter kit. But I think all things considered, we did really well with the early draft, the MVP, and it came together and taught us a lot of the things we needed to know in those days. The biggest was, could we sell it? Could we sell the game? And it definitely showed that we were able to sell Genesis in those days. Alright, let's jump into some pack openings. So let me switch this over to my other camera. Alright, so we got 2 packs opening. We're going to do this at the end of everything because I kind of miss doing pack openings. So, Erica and Kun, is there any card you're looking for in Raise? If so, let me know and see. Let's see if we can get those cards out there. Alright, gonna start with the commons here. Library Gate, Sidestep, that's great common. Inspiring Might, Guidance, Cattail Tiger. I like the Martial Sentry. I talked about it in the last video. Alright, getting to that common Shutdown. This is a card that we've been seeing a lot of play of recently. So if you're looking for good 3-cheese and you play Axon, this is definitely one of your better options. We saw some really good play with it in the last tournament. Colossal Ant, I love this card for draft. Constructed is a little bit harder to utilize, but definitely a solid draft card. And then Erica is our starter card, and our rare is going to be that Earth Pillar. So if you're looking for more Earth Pillars, this is your opportunity to get it. Remember, I'll do a question. It'll be based off of the talk that I just did to go over. So anyone who was watching, even if you don't know much about the game, you still have an opportunity of winning these packs. Alright, let's get into the next pack. Sorry, a little bit harder to open than the other one. Alright, got the Lion May Rabbit. Everyone loves their rabbits, right? I love some of these summons. Like the artwork just is so pretty on them. That's actually a good string of summons. Just mentioning right there. Alright, getting to the uncommons, Peripheral Visions. That was something that we saw featured in the last tournament. Did really, really well for the... I think it was in the Cunning deck. Goliath Sphinx here. This is my favorite Bellum uncommon right now. Undead Servitude. And then we got Core as your champion for this pack. And then your rare is Lightless. Love the Lightless. This card's absolutely amazing. Hey Joseph, thanks for joining. We are just jumping into doing some pack openings, and then we have a question, and whoever answers the question is going to be able to win these two packs. So the rares for the two packs was Lightless and Earth Pillar, which comically work side by side really well. So, alright, so to win these packs, the question is, what does MTP stand for? This should be a pretty easy one. So first person to answer this will get the packs. So who knows what MTP stands for? Maybe if you don't know, jump to earlier into the presentation. Yeah, let's transition this. So yeah, what does, from the context of this presentation, what does MTP stand for? So I have a lot of fun doing these presentations. I'm hoping you've enjoyed watching them. I know Joseph, Stephen, you jumped in a little bit late here. Remember, every Friday at 3 p.m. we're going to be doing these presentations, and if you get a chance to watch them, then you'll have an opportunity to win some prizes. Alright. So waiting on someone to give us an answer to what does MTP stand for. Alright, well, we're waiting for that. My next week presentation, I was going to talk about this idea of the FOO strategy, the first order operation strategy, but I think I'm actually going to jump into talking about the formula for like designing cards and what the process that goes behind it. I think that'll be something that's a little bit interesting. Alright, how about instead, the first person who tells me who's this champion that's on the screen, and I'll give them the packs there. So that way, Joseph, Stephen, you have a chance of jumping into that. So next week we'll be talking about what it's like to design a card, kind of the thought process that goes behind it, and you know, some of the fun, enjoyable things. Oh, it looks like the video's lagging quite a bit. Alright, I don't know if it's just me or what's happening, but it looks like the video's freezing a lot on Facebook. Steven, you had the answer, so congrats to Steven. Yep. And next week we'll do 2 more packs, and we'll have another question for everyone then. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.